The sun shone on the kingdom of Oro, making the activities of its inhabitants visible. The people had smiles on their faces as they went about their normal daily business. The young girls were with their water pots and they giggled with each other as they headed towards the stream. The younger children who were too small to fetch water and too small to play around were busy sweeping the compound, singing a melodious tune as they did this. The men joined forces with their sons to weave the palm fronds that the women would use for decorations. The air smelled of festivity, and the reason was the Igogo festival. It was the first day of this exciting festival. The Igogo festival was an annual event held in honor of the goddess Queen Orosin. It usually lasted for 17 days, as per custom. It was a festival filled with lots of food and merriment. Throughout the festival period, the kingdom of Oro was in a general state of excitement and joy. At least, everyone was, except Ronke. Ronke, Ronke! The young lady felt a tap on her back. The action caused her to jump out of fright. Her heart stopped pounding when she saw the familiar face of her friend, Ayomide, staring at her. Ronke, are you okay? I've been calling you for a while now, the young woman asked, concerned at how absent-minded her friend was. I'm sorry, I just got lost in my head, Ronke responded, and Ayomide sighed. What is it? Ronke asked. I didn't want to say anything, but Ronke, we have been friends for a long time, and I always notice that when it's time for the Igogo festival, you become absent-minded, lost in your head, and sad. What exactly is wrong? What's wrong? Ronke whispered to herself. The answer to that question could make her lose her mind. Everything was wrong. Nothing was right. Ronke had tried her best not to think about it, but bad memories always creep into our brains without our permission. And when one was an orphan like Ronke, who had no one to protect her from the cruel dealings of life, it wasn't always easy to guard your mind. So she allowed the thoughts to seep in, cripple her, judge her, and tell her who she was. And she hoped that once they were done, they would leave her and she could find some peace. But they never did. They stayed, tormenting her day and night, leaving no room for mercy, and their hold on her became stronger during the Igogo festival, for it was during this festival that tragedy struck her. Ronke was once proud and happy in her motherland. She and her family lived in the northern axis of the village. She was born and bred in our land. By age 10, she was aware of all the customs and traditions of the land. Growing up with a lovely family, she was more than happy to participate in the most exquisite festival the village celebrated annually. All that changed when she turned 20. It was a lovely morning, and Ronke could still hear the birds chirping as she awoke from her slumber. She had rushed out of her room to see her mother, about to knock on her wooden door. Good morning, Mama, she greeted her mother with a smile, and the woman smiled back. She was proud of her daughter. Everyone loved her, and all the mothers wished their daughter could be like Ronke. Had a bubbly character, a dazzling smile, and a perfect body. He was sent straight from heaven to the Owo kingdom. Hamide's mother had made her daughter become friends with Ronke, hoping she would learn one thing or two from her, and the girl did. Ronke, good morning. I was just about to wake you up. Come help me in the kitchen, her mother said. Okay, Mama, but first let me greet Papa. Ronke gave her mother a peck on the lips and rushed out to greet her father. Her father was too handsome for his age. He was well built and blessed with a kind smile. The man was cutting wood. He stopped when he saw his beautiful daughter. He beckoned to the girl, and Ronke walked over to him. "Good morning, Papa," she greeted him with a bow. "Good morning, Ronke." "Papa, what are you doing? Mom already has enough firewood to cook with." "Yes, I know that, but this firewood is not for your mother. The plank holding the roof of the house is not so strong. You know that the villagers will hold a display of useful exuberance today. I don't want anything to hit the plank and ruin the house, but this shouldn't take long." "Papa, I don't understand why they have to be so loud every year." The sound of her father's laughter resonated in the air. "It's a festival, dear. They have to be loud. Now, go and help your mother in the kitchen." "Okay, Papa. Don't injure yourself, okay?" she screamed out as she rushed to her mother. Ronke walked past the plank that held the roof, and she couldn't see what the father was so worried about. The plank was fine. "He's probably just looking for what to do," Ronke thought to herself. She scoffed and went inside to help her mother. The woman immediately told her to fetch some water, and Ronke carried the jerrycan and left. On the way to the stream, she ran into a man that appeared alien to her. He didn't look like a man from our kingdom. He stared intently at Ronke before walking away. A few minutes later, she was walking back to her father's house with a jerrycan full of water on her head. Her father had stopped cutting the firewood and had gone to taste the food his wife was cooking. Immediately after her parents noticed her arrival, they beckoned for her to join them. Thankfully, Ronke took slow but steady steps, and before she could get to her parents, the plank cracked, causing the beam that supported the roof to fall on her parents. Ronke couldn't move. She wasn't even sure she could breathe. She stood there looking at her parents being smashed to the ground. Her knees felt numb, and before she knew it, she fell to the floor. "No!" Ronke cried out, and the ground became her place of rest. She stayed on the floor for hours, weeping, too afraid to go and see her parents. After their burial, Ronke moved to the southern part of the village, and every night she wondered how a plant that was perfectly fine an hour ago could break without being touched. "Ronke, Ronke, are you not going to the stream?" The voices of her friends, Ayomide and Ayodele, called out to her. Ronke snapped out of her musing and quickly answered back, "Give me a minute, I'm coming." Together the three girls headed to the stream. Ronke was always grateful for the two girls who were like sisters to her. Although the girls were cousins, the similarities in their features were so great. People often mistook them for twins. They had been Ronke's support system when she lost her parents, and together with their families, they had helped ease the burden of the loss. "I heard the prince will be choosing a wife for himself at the end of the festival," Ayomide said. "Really? But who is she?" Adele asked. Ronke rolled her eyes and focused on the path they were walking. Her friends always loved talking about boys, and it was slowly starting to piss her off. "That is unknown, but a cooking competition will be organized by the 15th day, and the winner will emerge as the next queen," Ayomide continued. "Wow! The witch and the lucky one," Adele crooned. Ronke kept silent, and the two girls became uncomfortable at her silence. "Ronke, are you going to participate in the competition?" Adele asked. "No, thank you. I have better things to do," he answered sharply. "What would be more important than contesting to be a queen?" "I don't know. Maybe surviving. Look, if I go into the competition and win, I won't accept that title. You can't choose a woman to rule a land simply because she knows how to cook. How will her cooking skills help when tough decisions have to be made?" This kingdom is just so backward in its thinking, and I will not be a party to it, Ronke said. Well, we should start looking for a new home then. Yeah, the king has declared that any woman of marriageable age who does not participate in the competition should leave the kingdom, Ayodele said. Together with Ayomide, the girls hurried to join the other maidens of the village, who were all chattering excitedly about the competition as they headed for the stream. The competition was to be held at the village square, where every maiden of marriageable age was to prepare the native hqwords meal. For 2 weeks now, there was singing, dancing, games, and lots of food to eat and drinks to celebrate the event. The drums continued to beat day and night, and when one group of drummers got tired, another group would immediately replace them. The various traditional meals of the village were prepared and eaten. So it was noon, and all the villagers, including Ronke, gathered at the village square for the rituals that will mark the official opening of the ceremony. All the maidens contesting were equally paraded before the villagers, as a purification ritual was to be carried out by the chief priest on them. Just as the Oba walked in and took his seat, the chief priest arrived with his two assistants. From his raffia bag, he took out a small cauldron, which contained water and some herbs. He beckoned on the maidens to draw closer and sprinkled some on them, after which he poured the rest in a circle around the village square, while chanting incantations. Finally, he broke the cauldron to show that the festival could begin, and almost immediately drummers beat sonorously on their drums. The maidens were led out and taken to the maidens' quarters in the palace, where they would stay until the competition ended. Ronke, although part of the contestants, only participated because it was compulsory. She wished she could go to her parents' graves like she always did and mourn them quietly. Finally, it was time for the next queen to emerge. Cooking stands were set up in the village square for the maidens to use, and all the ingredients for the meal were laid out. The maidens were brought out and asked to take a stand each. There were 17 of them. The chief priest laid out the rules for the competition and asked them to begin. All the girls could be seen doing their best to finish within the allotted time of 2 hours. Elders and parents who had gathered as well could be seen pointing out the mistakes of some contestants and laughing heartily. The king, queen, prince, and princess were also there, as the result of the competition affected them on a personal level. Ronke was a professional cook, and all her friends knew that. During the competition, Ronke had a sudden surge to use the restroom, and she rushed away, leaving her food unattended. Unfortunately for her, Ayodele kept an eye on her food for her. When she was done, she rushed back to the competition ground, and on her way there, she bumped into a young man who seemed very familiar to her. Her curiosity wanted to find out who the man was, but she also knew she had to get back to her food. As she walked past the man, he held her back and spoke. Forget about your enemies. Worry about what your friends are doing. After those words, he disappeared. It was during this time that Ayodele added salt to Ronke's food, and before Ronke got back, she was gone. Ronke went about cooking her meal without being disturbed by the strange man and his words of advice. At the expiration of 2 hours, the maidens were asked to stop and serve the meal they had prepared. The tasting was to be done by the senior elder, the chief priest, and the prince himself. The girls who hadn't finished could be seen bowing their heads in shame as they had nothing to present, while those who had finished cooking their meals and went to stand before the chief priest. Among those who had finished were Ronke and Ayodele. Ayomide had not been able to complete her cooking as she didn't know what to do initially, and had only started cooking when others had. The tasting began in earnest. Ronke's was the last in the row. I have not had a more tasty plate of hqwords in a very long time, the chief priest exclaimed upon eating Ronke's meal. Similar words of praise were sung by the chief elder and the prince. "My king, we have found the next queen," the chief priest explained while holding onto Ronke's hand. "Impossible! That cannot be," Ayodele shouted. Murmurs could be heard among the crowd at Ayodele's outburst. To bring back order, the king asked Ayodele to explain her actions. She stood, tongue-tied. Before she could speak, a man walked up to the front of the crowd. It was the same man that Ronke had seen on 2 occasions. "I think I know why, my king." Something to her meal. "My name is Rotimi. Ayodele hired me to ruin Ronke's life." "And what did she do?" the crowd bellowed, while Ayodele hid her face in shame. "She added extra salt to my plantain flour," Ronke replied. He enjoyed the look of shock on Ayodele's face and took that as motivation to continue. "Yes, that's right, friend. I saw when you did that. That was why I replaced it with another flower." "But wait, if she did that herself, what did she hire you to do?" the prince asked Rotimi. "Wait," Ronke gasped. "I remember where I saw you before. You are the strange man I bumped into on the way to the stream 3 years ago." "Yes, I am. I was sent by Adele to kill your parents." "What?" The crowd went wild with whispers. All eyes fell on Ayodele. Suddenly, the woman lost all feelings of fear. "Yes, that's right. I told him to kill your parents, Ronke. They always talked to my parents about you, and every time they did that, my parents would make me feel like a nobody. I wanted my revenge. I wanted you to suffer the same way I was suffering, so I had them killed. Yes, I did it," Adele confessed. Ronke stood in shock. Tears fell from her eyes as she watched her friends say such words to her. The king wasted no time in giving Ayodele a severe punishment. Ronke was declared the winner amidst cheers and shouts of congratulations from the crowd. When she saw how kind and brave the prince had been, she agreed to marry him and become the next queen of Oroki.